Oh, that's your point.
Let me test this. Hello. How do I know this works? Hi. Okay.
Okay, it's in there.
Okay.
I put it inside of the tripod and is that funny?
That's funny, yeah.
Just get kind of stiff. No, just one.
She seems to have a lot of energy.
Very enthusiastic, yes.
Have they done any strikes locally? Any school strikes? Like they do in Europe? Good to see them caught on.
First year.
Do you have enough space? Excuse me, has she been sent to overcrowded platforms?
Is that right?
Prior to her regional what she Oh yeah, but I think he's right. And open milk. Howard Drive, 108. Most of them are over the place. Yes, most of them. There's only two that are under really, really over 120%, 150% at Howard. I mean, it's terrible. It's really bad. And I understand that the real folks don't want Howard being bust down. It's gotta happen. They're holding it all. It's gotta happen.
And you say all in one county.
Right. It's gotta happen.
you. Any question? You bring your pen. Okay.
Well, I'll see. I'll look at one. That would be my question.
I'm not sure.
Whether or not I'll ask it is another question. So I'm
Start. Okay.
Is she speaking?
Huh?
Okay, so she should be directly behind.
Uh-huh. I don't know where he is.
So let's get in order.
He's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I don't know.
Edie, then
Okay. Uh-huh.
Daphne,
I have a clicker.
you, Alex, me,
Okay, everyone, we're gonna start.
Wait, our speakers in the middle. This one's for the.
Oh, okay.
No,
Wait,
this
what?
Is the one we want to use.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna get started, so please quiet down. Thank you.
Framework on Green New Deal.
Green New
The
Deal.
Green New Deal. An environmental group called the Sunrise Movement.
It's supposed to be like that.
Sunrise. We're bringing on the Koch brothers because we have an activated sunrise revolution that's taking place.
We have 12 years to radically transform our economy and our society to stop this crisis and protect human civilization as we know it. We'll talk about it like that because that's what it is.
This is not about Republicans. This is not about Democrats. This is about humanity. That's why we demand a new Green Deal, and we demand it right now.
is he good?
Huh? I don't know. Who knows? He'll might show up. Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the Howard County Green New Deal Town Hall. I'm Iris and I am so happy to have you here learning about the Green New Deal and how we can make this movement in Howard County a reality. So before we get into the Town Hall, I would like to thank our partners, the HOCO Climate Collaborative, Indivisible, HOCO MD, Out Revolution for helping us organize this, and also the UUCC for helping us to sponsor this event. So we'd also like to introduce our speakers. So I'm Iris, as I mentioned. I'm a 15-year-old freshman at Riverville High School, and I am Sunrise HOCO's hub coordinator.
Hi everyone, my name is Aditi. I am a 15-year-old sophomore at River Hill High School, and I am here to support and endorse the Green New Deal.
Hi, my name is Daphne. I'm a 15-year-old freshman at River Hill, and I work with HOCO Indivisible with their environment and transportation team.
Hi, my name is Harshini. I'm also a 15-year-old freshman at River Hill, and I'm a new part of the Sunrise Youth Movement.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a 15-year-old freshman at Wild Lake High School, and I'm here as a part of the Sunrise Movement as well.
Hi, my name is Emily Frias. I'm the grassroots coordinator with Chesapeake Climate Action Network. I'm 25 and a little older, still young. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the Green New Deal as well as the Clean Energy Jobs Act that just passed the Maryland legislature.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Sorak. I'm 15 years old. and they asked me to come and speak to you about agriculture policy.
Hi, I'm with Alice White. I'm with Howard County Climate Action, one of the partners, as well as the Maryland Sierra Club, and I'm here to talk about community solar, one of the many things that our group is supporting.
Okay. So before we get into everything, we want to share the stories of how climate change and our economy is impacting. And I'm going to start with myself. As a young Gen Z teen, it's always been a part of my life, climate change, ever since third grade. It has basically broke my innocence. And knowing that I have such strong morals and climate change just destroying all that, and it makes me want to fight so much to keep my future, because growing up knowing that anything is possible, I want to be able to achieve anything in my future. It's something I should be looking forward to. And so I want to create a future that I want to look forward to, and that's why I am part of this movement for a Green New Deal. As I've been hit hard by climate change myself, as my family has been hit by Harvey down in my hometown of Texas, and also here in Howard County. The 1,000-year floods have been decimating our city, and it should be a wake-up call to action like the Green New Deal.
Hi everyone, as I introduced myself before, I am a DT, and I also learned about climate change in elementary school. And I assumed that our government was taking care of it. I mean, how could they not be? People were dying, our animals and wildlife were literally going away. And not until 3 years ago did I realize that climate change wasn't being addressed on such a big scale. It's not being acknowledged or dealt with in the proper way in our government right now. Big oil and gas corporations are lobbying for lighter regulation to make more money at the risk of our lives. Because I find this corrupt iron triangle between bureaucracies, lobbyists, and our own United States government so unfair, I stand with the Green New Deal to make more livable futures for people like us and for you. So right now, I would like you to turn to a couple people near you and discuss what brought you into the room today. How are you seeing the impacts of climate change, pollution, and economic inequality in your life and your community? Write it down on the index cards that were given to you, and just go ahead.
You have 3 minutes.
In the script, you have Emily in there.
I'm going right after.
Okay, that was a mistake. Emily. Oh, yeah, you guys can sit down. You guys can go sit down. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. That's because Emily added that in there.
No, that's not her.
This is why I did this short
You
script.
stand up here. I'm right after you.
Yeah, you get next. Okay.
She has it.
Write it down, because we're collecting all our stories and putting them all in that little post-it. Yeah, this is breakout.
So like,
People are
hold on,
talking.
it's 2:13, so around 2:16 I'm out stopping.
Yeah. Don't worry, Laura. She's a timer.
Okay, that's fine. And I'll just like stop them, and then I'll like ask for a couple of people to raise their hands, and then be like, so share what you learned.
Yeah.
Like, share what you learned, or like share something you shared.
I know it. Thanks to my mom, who's been assaulting me and me
It's been parenting work.
back and forth. Okay. You want to say okay? Sure.
They have time.
Oh, sorry.
They have time.
Yeah.
I have a watch on.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of petty. They didn't let me keep my watch on during the SAT. They were like, no, you have a digital-based watch. You have to take it off. My mom was like, you should take it. And you know, like, she actually didn't say this, but like, I feel like she was like, you're probably going to fail your career, so better feel this. She didn't say that. But like, I feel like that's hard. Today.
Okay. I tried to do it, but it didn't work. I think I tried it in the past, and that's what happens with going through the video. Okay, 15 seconds. Thank you. No, yay! Sunrise.
Hi everyone!
Okay.
If we could start reeling it in right now, that would be so great. Alright. Is there anybody who would like to share what they shared with their neighbors out loud? Any hands? Hello? Hi everyone. Okay. Does anyone mind sharing what they shared with their neighbors? Any hands? Go ahead.
I've been voluntold. So, we talked about all kinds of things, floods, young people, birds, but I said I also come at it from a faith perspective, because when I read that all creatures, praising God, and that we are all in this together, it's not just about people, and that the earth isn't here for us to just use it up.
All right, that was such a great response. Is there anybody else who would like to share? Go.
We have 2 minutes to.
I work with babies, and I love them, and they're just like the joy of my life. But I just think more and more every day about like how am I going to prepare them for what the world will look like when they grow up, and how will they remember our generation, the people that raised them and took away their future with just greed and short-sightedness. So I'm here because I want to speak up for the babies.
Is there anyone else? Just one more. Go ahead.
I have a 40-year career in solar energy, in part motivated by originally my concern over nuclear energy, acid rain, pollution in general, and feel like over that time I've been screaming against the storm for so many years, trying to get to raise awareness. And now, after all this time, we're up against this obvious timeline, and I've got to say, it's really rewarding and exciting to see the youth bringing such excitement to this movement. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your guys' stories.
Okay. We are living in a time of profound crisis for the climate and the economy. Workers are working longer and harder without higher wages, while housing and education costs keep climbing. Debt and economic inequality have skyrocketed. Internationally, governments are providing about $1 trillion annually in fossil fuel subsidies. In the US alone, these subsidies range between $10 billion to $52 billion annually. And that's not even including costs related to the climate, local health, and environmental impacts. Dollar for dollar, we know that renewable energy employs far more people than oil, coal, and gas. Imagine if all that fossil fuel money was used to help our communities make the transition to a greater economy.
Good thing we've got each other. This is one of more than 200 town halls happening across the country with thousands of young people gathering in our communities to learn about the Green New Deal. We may not have the billions of dollars to spend on misinformation campaign like fossil fuel elites do, but we're building a movement big enough to take them on without fear. We think the Green New Deal can change everything. The exploitation of people and the planet are two key pillars in a culture that allows the rich and corporations to amass more and more wealth, while everyday people struggle to survive. Two pillars we need to topple if we're going to change our society and economy, and they're both addressed in the Green New Deal.
So this is not just the Green New Deal just isn't a resolution. This is a revolution by and for the young people. So you might ask what that means, and for the answer for that, we're gonna watch this visionary video by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
saw the bullet train from New York to DC. It always brings me back to when I first started making this commute. In 2019, I was a freshman in the most diverse Congress in history. Up to that point, it was a critical time. I'll never forget the children in our community. They were so inspired to see this new class of politicians who reflected them, navigating the halls of power. It's often said, you can't be what you can't see. And for the first time, they saw themselves. I think there was something similar with the Green New Deal. We knew that we needed to save the planet and that we had all the technology to do it, but people were scared. They said it was too big, too fast, not practical. I think that's because they just couldn't picture it yet. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with how we got here. 1977, New York. A senior scientist named James Black made a presentation about how burning fossil fuels could eventually lead to global temperatures rising 4 or 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Within 2 years, one of the world's biggest supertankers was outfitted with a state-of-the-art lab to measure CO2 in the ocean, gathering more data about global warming. Guess who was doing all of this research? ExxonMobil, the oil and gas company. Oh yeah, Exxon knew this whole time, as did our politicians. 10 years later, James Hansen, NASA's top climate scientist, told Congress he was 99% certain that global warming was happening and caused by humans. That was 1988, the year before I was even born. So did Exxon listen to the science, including their own? Did they change business models, invest in renewables? No, the opposite. They knew and they doubled down. They and others spent millions setting up a network of lobby groups and think tanks to create doubt and denial about climate change. It was an effort designed to attack and dispute the very kind of science they themselves had been doing. And it worked. Politicians went to bat for fossil fuels, and these massive corporations kept digging and mining, drilling and fracking like there was no tomorrow. America became the biggest producer and consumer of oil in the world. Fossil fuel companies made hundreds of billions, while the public paid the lion's share to clean up their disasters. We lost a generation of time we'll never get back. Entire species will never get back. Natural wonders gone forever. And in 2017, Hurricane Maria destroyed the place where my family was from, Puerto Rico. It was like a climate bomb. It took as many American lives as 9/11. And in the next year, when I was elected to Congress, the world's leading climate scientists declared another emergency. They told us that we had 12 years left to cut our emissions in half, or hundreds of millions of people would be more likely to face food and water shortages, poverty, and death. 12 years to change everything. How we got around, how we fed ourselves, how we made our stuff, how we lived and worked, everything. The only way to do it was to transform our economy, which we already knew was broken, since the vast majority of wealth was going to just a small handful of people, and most folks were falling further and further behind. It was a true turning point. Lots of people gave up. They said we were doomed. But some of us remembered that as a nation, we'd been in peril before. The Great Depression, World War II. We knew from our history how to pull together to overcome impossible odds. And at the very least, we owed it to our children to try. The wave began when Democrats took back the House in 2018, and then the Senate and the White House in 2020, and launched the decade of the Green New Deal, a flurry of legislation that kicked off our social and ecological transformation to save the planet. It was the kind of swing-for-the-fence ambition we needed. Finally, we were entertaining solutions on the scale of the crises we faced without leaving anyone behind. That included Medicare for All, the most popular social program in American history. We also introduced the federal jobs guarantee, a public option including dignified living wages for work. Funnily enough, the biggest problem in those early years was a labor shortage. We were building a national smart grid, retrofitting every building in America, putting trains like this one all across the country. We needed more workers. That group of kids from my neighborhood were right in the middle of it all, especially this one girl, Ileana. Her first job out of college was with AmeriCorps Climate, restoring wetlands and bayous in coastal Louisiana. Most of her friends were in her union, including some oil workers in transition. They took apart old pipelines and got to work planting mangroves with the same salary and benefits. Of course, when it came to healing the land, we had huge gaps in our knowledge. Luckily, indigenous communities offered generational expertise to help guide the way. Ileana got restless, tried her hand as a solar plant engineer for a while, but eventually made her career in raising the next generation as part of the Universal Child Care Initiative. As it turns out, caring for others is valuable, low-carbon work, and we started paying real money to folks like teachers, domestic workers, and home health aides. Those were years of massive change, and not all of it was good. When Hurricane Sheldon hit southern Florida, parts of Miami went underwater for the last time. But as we battled the floods, fires, and droughts, we knew how lucky we were to have started acting when we did. And we didn't just change the infrastructure, we changed how we did things. We became a society that was not only modern and wealthy, but dignified and humane too. By committing to universal rights like healthcare and meaningful work for all, we stopped being so scared of the future. We stopped being scared of each other, and we found our shared purpose. Ileana heard the call too, and in 2028, she ran for office in the first cycle of publicly funded election campaigns. And now she occupies the seat that I once held. I couldn't be more proud of her, a true child of the Green New Deal. When I think back to my first term in Congress, riding that old school Amtrak in 2019, all of this was still ahead of us. And the first big step was just closing our eyes and imagining it. We can be whatever we have the courage to see.
Nice.
So, as you just watched, what the Green New Deal says is that it will engage every American in an emergency effort to transition our economy and society to 100% renewable. For anyone who needs work, that means you'll have a family-sustaining job helping to build a new economy. And for those communities impacted by a transition, and for those vulnerable and on the front lines of pollution and climate change, it will mean a just transition.
As a society, when we take on a crisis, we go with everything we've got. We can pull off the unimaginable. Climate change is far from the only emergency we face. Systematic racism is an urgent issue. Inequality has skyrocketed, and other major problems in our society. These crises are all connected. The Green New Deal is going to take them on together. Can we do it in 10 years? The Green New Deal is going to make sure that it happens. We can, and the Green New Deal must do it all. We're going to walk you through the 3 major ways that the Green New Deal is going to change everything for the better. First, good jobs for all. Second, a democratic economy. And third, a good life for all. So we know that serious climate action will create millions and millions of jobs. And we've taken a huge step here in Maryland by passing the Clean Energy Jobs Act. It will bring us to 50% renewable energy by 2030 and create a plan for 100% by 2040. And because of the massive expansion of green energy that we're going to need to have, it will transform our economy here in our state. It will bring with it 20,000 Maryland jobs, and what's really exciting is that it also includes millions of dollars in grants for veterans, women, people of color, and small business owners to enter into this green energy economy. So it really also makes a massive investment in equity as well. And once our governor signs this bill, we'll know that Maryland is part of the solution that we know we need nationally. And every county in Maryland will be affected by this, including Howard County. We'll see a massive expansion of solar in this very right around in this neighborhood. So we do need to think bigger, though. I'm really proud that Maryland has taken this step. And I really do hope that our governor does sign this bill, and I'll talk to you more about that later.
but we need to take national action. It's time to expand in every city, in every suburb, in every rural town, and every town. There's a mind-boggling amount of work to do. We're already creating 20,000 Maryland jobs. Imagine the millions and millions we'll create under the Green New Deal. We'll need people to build wind farms, solar installations, and smart grids. Charging stations, electric bus lines, and bullet trains, affordable homes. We have to retrofit and climate-proof every building in the United States. We have to upgrade and fortify our infrastructure. This is going to be a huge project, and there's going to be so many people involved, and I'm so excited that we're starting on such a great foot in Maryland. We're kind of making sure we're going to be part of that, and the next step is to bring it nationally.
Hi again, my name is Bonnie Sorak. I am the mother of 4 boys, and I can tell you that I have lived through the impacts of climate change personally. I was in Ellicott City during the first flood, and lost a car there, and so I've personally felt the impacts of true climate change. And I work every day. I work for an organization called Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake, and we work with communities of faith to help them understand the problem of stormwater and the effects of all the stormwater that we have. But today I was asked to come here and talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you, this is something that I don't normally just come out and say. It's a little bit, I kind of keep it a secret and don't really mention this unless folks get to know me for a while, and then I share it with them. And what I'm about to share with you is not because I say that you should do what I do or that I'm judgmental in any way, but they only gave me 3 minutes, so I'm going to just jump right to it. And it is I have 5, and I know, but we're running behind. We're good. We're okay. I'm vegan. So I'm guessing that in this room you all know what that means. But for some of you who may not, that means that I don't eat any animal products at all. It means I don't eat anything that has a mother or a face. And I've been vegan for almost 25 years. And my 4 children are vegan, and so is our dog. There's lots of reasons for my choices, but I'm going to focus on the environmental reasons today because that's kind of why we're here. It's estimated that food agriculture is responsible for 9% of the country's greenhouse gas emissions. Primarily, the Green New Deal resolution notes that the importance of working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the agriculture section through supporting family farming and investing in sustainable farming and land use practices that increase soil health and build more sustainable food system that ensures universal access to healthy food. So I guess that some of you might know that the food in your local grocery store, either whether it's organic or not, has traveled an average of 1,500 miles to get to your plate. The farther your food travels, the less nutritious it is, and the less tasty it is. So you want to eat close to home. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations states that the livestock sector is a major stressor on many ecosystems and on the planet as a whole. Globally, it is one of the largest sources of greenhouse gases and one of the leading causal factors in the loss of biodiversity, while in developing and emerging countries, it is perhaps the leading source of water pollution. In this and many other Food and Agriculture Organization usage, not only elsewhere, but this includes poultry as part of livestock. So they asked me here today because I ran a community supported agriculture program for 9 years in Howard County. But I thought, let me talk to a local farmer before I come here today. So I spoke to a farmer that I know, and to find out what the situation is here in Howard County. And so we have about 300 farmers here in Howard County, but things aren't going well for them. It is really hard to be a farmer in Howard County. They can't make a living. He told me that the farmers average $13,000 a year. So they are way below the poverty line. And that the laws that have recently been passed are not there to support small farming. So just thinking of that, and that they're going out of business all the time. Actually, one of the farms that I considered using for a CSA 2 years ago isn't in business anymore. They're telling me I have a minute. So, part of the Green New Deal is to try to do away with legislation that is currently providing $13 billion of subsidies for large agribusiness. And we've just we need to change that to support our local farmers. So what can you do? Every meal you eat, that decision of what you put on your plate and what you put in your mouth affects the world. So think about that. Try to eat local. Try to eat fresh. And also advocate for national and local legislation that will support small farming. You can go to Transition Howard County and Live Green Howard to look for CSA options. And eat your vegetables.
Teaching, nursing, child and elder care, domestic and agricultural work. These are all examples of green, low-carbon jobs in our economy, the very ones we need to expand. And even though the wind and solar industries are exploding, those jobs are usually non-union too, paying far less than the fossil fuel industry does. Green jobs need to be good jobs. We can't just trust the market to provide them. That's why a core component of the Green New Deal is a policy called the Job Guarantee. There is so much climate work to be done that the federal government can offer a job to every single American who needs one and participates in this transition. Most work will still be in the private sector, but what the federal Job Guarantee does is will set a floor for wages and benefits. Every employer will have to meet those minimum standards, or their workers will simply leave for the public option. Overall, this policy will be life-changing for all of us. It will especially help lift the low-income workers, indigenous communities, people of color, migrants, the unhoused, the formerly incarcerated, people with disabilities, and more.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You got to get loud in here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you doing? I'm Willie Flowers, and I'm the branch president of the Howard County branch of the NAACP here. I'm certainly happy to be here. Certainly proud of the invitation. Certainly the Green New Deal is a big deal, and we've discussed this in me coming here. That there's a missing piece of it, particularly when you're talking about marginalized communities and African communities, whether they are in Baltimore or they're in the continent of Africa. Those communities are the ones who feel the negative impact of environmental neglect. And this whole conversation about environmental racism and environmental justice actually stimulated from a black man whose name is everybody know who Robert Bullard is? So if you know Robert Bullard, you've done your work. But if you don't know who he is, you need to dig deeper. And what I mean by that is when you leave out a community who's being most affected by it, the deal is not a big deal. What we discussed earlier is the interest and the effort should the effort should be to deconstruct race. To deconstruct race as it is, because it's a structure that puts somebody at the bottom. And when we say race, somebody's going to be at the bottom. If we move in order to eliminate some racial inequality, you're putting someone at the bottom. So we want to start to deconstruct race and be conscious of that from the outset. We can't get to a big deal, whether the deal is green, blue, or whatever color it is. We can't get there and bring everybody along. So what we want to do is be conscious of that, and then you'll have diversity in the room. Because as long as we have a room like this, the Green New Deal is a deal for people who have the information. So we want to back up and be conscientious of deconstructing race, but also inspire and add the equipment for young people to know how to be organizers. If we walk into these rooms with the passion, the fairy tale of what we want to see, without bringing a community forward, we get absolutely nothing. But if we can start at the ground level and talk to young people, what's the most environmentally friendly thing that you do today? Did you pick up a piece of paper off of the street? So these types of things are happening, and that's the small things that we can do. She mentioned earlier that her family was very involved with the movement. They don't eat any meat. My family is vegetarian, but my sons also are Boy Scouts. So they understand the concept of leave no trace behind. We don't have that in our everyday life because we're separated from in the environment. So we can't talk about environmental justice if we're not connected with the environment. So the Scouts continue that. But they leave it there in some cases because people do eat meat. And if the wrong deer comes up, they're going to eat that deer that night. But that's the best way to eat a deer, right? If you kill it yourself, so I won't get off on that. But I do want to, you live in Howard County, you understand the deer, right? But I do want to step back and remind you that we have to be, first of all, passionate about the reality that we live in a fear-based structure. And that fear-based structure in this country is propelled by race in its form. We need to be inspired to deconstruct that. We need to guide everybody. We're focusing on young people, but we need to inspire everyone to be prepared to be the organizers that we have to be to dismantle it. And then we can talk about a Green New Deal, a Blue New Deal, and any other deal. But until then, we're going to miss the point. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to heat and cool my home with clean, renewable energy. I'm looking forward to the law that Emily spoke about being enacted and put into practice and are moving to 100% clean electricity. The easiest thing in the world to do because we know how to do it. We know that wind and solar can provide what we need, and we know how to install them. But it's political will, and it's the entrenched fossil fuel industry. So right now I pay for wind power for my electricity, as probably many of you do, but I've canceled that because I think I found a better deal. Most of the wind power is from out of state, and I want to sponsor jobs here in Maryland. So one of that way is to get solar installed, but like many people, there are many reasons I can't put solar on my roof. Some people are in a condo or apartment and rent, or their roof isn't appropriate for some reason. I'm in a townhouse and I have too much shade. Some people feel they can't afford solar, although it's becoming more and more accessible. But if I want to spend my dollars on electricity for solar power, and there's an easy answer here in Maryland, it's something 40 other states are doing, and it's called community solar. If you pay a utility bill, you can buy community solar instead of the usual mix of electricity in this area. The default is based on coal plants. So community solar are local, larger scale solar projects where members of the community buy in to pay for the power and get credit on their electricity bills for their share of the power. We have to replace burning things to get our energy, things like coal and frack gas, which pollutes. The Community Solar Project in Maryland launched in 2017, and the legislature just passed a renewal of this pilot that will go through 2024. So everybody that buys into community solar will be telling Maryland, we want this pilot to become permanent. It provides jobs. There are 4,515 solar jobs in Maryland in 2018. This is a more democratic form of energy because you have local projects. You're not relying on the traditional energy conglomerates with their huge polluting plants. We need to encourage these sites. So I am with Neighborhood Sun, and I pay this is also cheaper. I pay 5% less than the traditional BGE rate, but for low income, the fee may be 10% less. Maryland has a problem with zoning for solar. Howard County is one of the better counties. However, right now, there are 2 proposed Howard County community solar sites that will be proposed for farms in Sykesville, and they'll be surrounded by bee-friendly pollinator plants, and farming will go on all around these sites. The project, the company for this is One Energy, and Howard County Climate Action and the Sierra Club have talked to the leaders of this plant, a national plant with a very good reputation, national energy provider with a good energy reputation in Maryland. And we will want to encourage people to turn out for hearings before the Howard County Zoning Board to support the projects in Maryland. So there are several community solar providers, but the one I am with is funding a project in Baltimore County, but I'm excited that there will be projects right here in Howard County if we support them. We need to turn out everywhere we can to support clean energy and oppose the dirty sources. Thank you.
So let's get this down to my height. Let's talk about democracy for a second. There's economic democracy and then there's plain old democracy. The difference is that plain old democracy includes all of us. The public, especially marginalized communities, need a say in how the Green New Deal gets designed and implemented, and they also need the ability to intervene when it goes astray. So, the federal jobs guarantee, for example, it'll be funded from the top, but administered from the bottom. Local municipalities and local government decide what gets done based on the needs and skills of the community that it's served.
So the Green New Deal Society is based on different values like cooperation, community, and solidarity. It lifts up the many, prioritizing all of our needs and dreams. The Green New Deal wants to secure all of these rights and freedoms. By calling for things like ample leisure time and universal access to healthy food and nature, it champions a better life for all.
This time is for everyone. We decide to leave no one behind. We refuse to let them divide us, but it all depends on our movements, because today we are up against the world's biggest corporations and the most entrenched political interests.
All right, hi everyone, I'm back. So turn to a person near you and talk about what's the most important in the Green New Deal for you. What part resonates with you? That's pretty much it. Go ahead and talk. Yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah, write it down if you want to, if you can. I'm so sorry, I literally messed up the last thing. I literally forgot where I was yielding. Yeah. Because I had part of it memorized and I didn't read off.
She said we're 6 minutes ahead of schedule.
That's good, right?
No, we're good.
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna throw shade at the people who run debate, but like that's something. But they like okay, so I'm the only one from River who loves that, and they didn't even ask me about the picture, and they didn't even ask me about like running for like any position whatsoever. It's fine, but like okay, 1 minute. That's fine. Like,
more time for people to tell their stories and say what they want.
yeah, I think so. How long? 1 minute, 2 minutes?
No, to share out. Should I do that right now? Yeah, just tell them until like they get silent and then share.
Hi everyone! Oh jeez. Hi everyone! Oh jeez. Hello? Okay. I don't need the microphone for it. Hey. Oh jeez. Hi. Sorry. It's fine. Clap it.
Just do it again.
Guys, can we come all back?
Hey, if you can hear me, clap once.
Hey.
If you can hear me, clap twice. All right, great. That sounded like some great discussion. Does anybody mind sharing what they talked about?
We're giving you guys more time for discussion.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fabi Hattu. First of all, congratulations. Thank you for organizing this wonderful event.
You're breaking our necks if you would stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come up.
I was actually.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
We're being live streamed.
Yeah, that's good.
Is it on?
It'll work. It's working on the other side.
Okay. I was actually, I think maybe 1 or 2 years older than you when I chose my my career in the early 2000s. So I'm a nuclear engineer. I chose my career in the nuclear industry because I felt strongly about the impact of climate change. I heard a lot about coal. I heard a lot about natural gas, and actually at that time a lot of it was coal. And so I picked my career because when I was in high school, I talked to my physics professor, teacher, and he told me, based on what I saw about nuclear, it had an immense potential. It has a lot of energy density, and it had an immense potential to solve climate change. And I think that it's a lot of the discussions that we have right now. I think it's wonderful because we will hopefully we will once and for all, get rid of the practice of using fossil fuels and things of that nature. And in fact, clean energy jobs are jobs that are not that you can't take offshore. You can't take them outside the country, and it's they're sort of they could be automation proof and they could be offshore proof. So that's wonderful. But I think a critical component, no pun intended, that I think the discussion is missing for me at least, which is what's important, is nuclear energy. In Maryland, more than 80% of the clean energy is produced from nuclear. And I think we have to, while we push forward to reach our, to reach these goals, we have to grapple with certain realities and limitations. Just a couple of data points. The Renewable Portfolio Act that was enacted in a few years back, right now it calls for 14.5% of our electricity to be produced from renewable energy, and right now we only have 4%. And so there are certain limitations, and if we don't acknowledge that and incorporate these other solutions, are we helping ourselves, or are we sort of exacerbating the issue? And so that's what I wanted to inject into this discussion, and hopefully we can, not trying to convince anybody's mind, just think about this aspect of the issue. Thank you.
It's her turn, right? So, we've explored what the Green New Deal means for Howard County and how it can bring prosperity and economic opportunity. But what's next for the movement to make this a reality? Here's Varshini Prakash, Sunrise's executive director at the Boston tour, explaining what's next.
The next 2 years are super critical, and we're going to be laser focused on 2 things. One is exposing the urgency of the crisis, and 2 is relentlessly demanding the solutions that we need. So in 2018, we put the Green New Deal on the map, and our movement grew exponentially. And in 2019, we're going to build support for the Green New Deal in every corner of this nation. We're going to challenge every candidate, every elected official, every presidential contender in the country to show where they stand on the Green New Deal. If they want to be a leader of our nation, then they need to show us their plan to stop the climate crisis and create millions of good jobs for our generation. And then throughout the fall, we'll challenge the public and the media to understand the urgency of this crisis. When major hurricanes and fires and floods strike, thousands of young people are going to turn out and take action to expose the injustice of climate change and bring this crisis to the doorsteps of our politicians to do something about it. So that's 2019. Are y'all with me? And then, in 2020, we're going to run one of the largest, most impactful youth climate electoral interventions this country has ever seen. We organized 300 to 500 young people to go full-time from January through the November 2020 election to make the Green New Deal the law of the land. So you are a young person, definitely keep an eye out for that program. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we need to do the next couple months. So in January of this year, we put out a call. We said that we can change the debate in our presidential election. For some reason, in our presidential election, nobody talks about the climate crisis. Can y'all guess how many questions we had about climate change in the 2012 or 2016 general election debates? Big fat zero. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So we are going to change that this year. And we already have. Because you are mobilizing. That's right. So there are 2 debates on the calendar this year. There's one in Miami in June, and there's a second one in Detroit in July. For the first debate, we're going to gather in our homes, schools, and community centers to host debate watch parties, where we'll mount pressure on social media, we'll bring more people into the movement, and we'll show the groundswell of support in our neighborhoods for a Green New Deal. Then we're asking everyone to show up and join us in Detroit for the largest mobilization in history at a presidential debate on July 30th. Put this in your calendar. So who's ready to change the debate? Yeah. Fantastic. So I need every single person out there cheering right now to take out your phone. Take out your phone. I know you got it. And to join our Change the Debate project, we need you to go to sunrisemovement.org/change the debate or text debate to 72345. Do it right now. It's super easy. And then secondly, to actually change the debate and win on this issue in 2021 and beyond,
It's on the next slide.
massive coalition, bigger than life that will be decades. So here's what I'm going to need you to do. When we leave this room tonight, I need every single one of you to go back to your communities, to go back to organizations that you are deeply embedded in, to ask them to endorse the Green New Deal. You can go to sunrisemovement.org/GND and fill out a super simple form that allows for everything from your local brewery, from coffee shops that you go to school clubs, to environmental groups, to racial justice groups, to libraries, to your school university, to the president of your college. So many different organizations and groups that are going to endorse the Green New Deal and show this massive groundswell of public support for a Green New Deal. And the week before the presidential debate, each one, we're going to deliver the support from our communities to these presidential campaign offices. And we can do this. Y'all, in the 70s, when they passed the most sweeping environmental legislation under presidents like Nixon, they had 20 million people out in the streets. 20 million people out in the streets for every day. So we can do this. It is in the lifeblood of our democracy. It is in our country. We have been here before, and we can do this now. The next few years that we have just might be our last one to actually elect a government that is capable of protecting human civilization as we know it. How many people feel the weight of that? Now, you're not alone. And if you look around you, there's hundreds and thousands of people who feel the exact same way. But it also means that the next 2 years afford us an opportunity like no other. We can be at the leading edge of building a political and public consensus for the solutions to the greatest crises of our lifetimes. So if we believe the science, we have to do everything in our power to make the Green New Deal a reality.
So as she mentioned, please sign up to change the debate by going to sunrisemovement.org/change the debate. And non-smartphone users, you can text debate to 72345.
I'll give you time to do that right now.
So you may be wondering what more you can do to help out with Sunrise Movement and our hub. So you can sign up to stay in the loop at bit.ly/Hoko Sunrise. You can also text MD Sunrise or at MD Sunrise to 810 or 81010 to get text updates, and follow us on social media: Facebook Sunrise Howard County, Twitter Sunrise Movement Hoko, and Instagram Sunrise Movement Hoko.
As mentioned, We know it will take more than a president to get the Green New Deal into law. And we need to build the largest coalition in history to make the Green New Deal a reality, because we all have something to gain and something to lose from climate change and something to gain from the Green New Deal.
We need to ask everyone across America for a Green New Deal. This policy is immensely popular across America, and it's our mission to show that. We're collecting endorsements of the Green New Deal from organizations across the country.
I want everyone to think about a group that you're a part of. School clubs, faith groups, small businesses, labor unions, racial justice groups, cultural organizations, youth organizations, environmental groups. Ask any group you're a part of to endorse the Green New Deal.
You can go to sunrisemovement.org/GND to sign up your organization and any others to endorse the Green New Deal. We're aiming for 2,000 groups endorsing the Green New Deal by August, and Sunrise will deliver the support for organizations across the USA to local elected politicians and presidential campaign office in advance of debates in summer.
So we're gonna end with this video about changing the debate, and then again, if you want to participate, you can go to sunrisemovement.org/change the debate.
We have 12 years to radically transform our economy and our society to stop this crisis and protect human civilization as we know it.
Well, I think it is man-made. I think it's clearly man-made.
Yeah, a whole lot. Right.
We'll talk about it like that. It's not what it is.
Okay, so everything that we just mentioned in the slide, everything that you need to know about Sunrise, it's all in this bit.ly, right over here, bit.ly/Sunrise Movement HOCO. It'll be sent in your email. You can scan this QR code if you want to access it later, and you can catch up on this presentation, learn more about the movement, take more actions, and learn more about all our partners and speakers. Okay, so following this presentation, we will have a question and answer time, and then we will have a time to speak out and tell your story. And then after that, we will conclude with a discussion and some pictures. Okay. So does anyone want to start with our Q&A? Have any questions? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So this is just, okay. Okay. So as I mentioned, we have passed the Clean Energy Jobs Act in Maryland in the legislature, but we still need the governor to sign it, or at the very least not veto it. So next Wednesday, two really amazing climate activists who you may have heard of, Vinny and Jamie DeMarco, are going to be riding 150 miles across Maryland, starting in Annapolis, and their first stop will actually be Ellicott City. So we'll be getting some folks out for the kickoff rally in the morning in Annapolis. We'll be, and I know this time is not as accessible for some folks, but always you have to, it's better to ask. We'll be having our kickoff rally at 10 a.m. on Wednesday next week in downtown Annapolis. But again, our first stop is going to be in Ellicott City, where we will be having a press conference with some at a storefront and featuring some voices that were affected by the flooding here in Howard County. So if you want to come out to our rally next week, there's that option. But additionally, we're just encouraging everybody to get in touch with Governor Hogan as you were coming in. You might have seen those postcards that say, Hogan, sign the Clean Energy Jobs Act. If you want to fill that out here and leave it at that desk, I will send it for you. Or if you want to take it home and send it, whatever way you want to do it, we're trying to get the word out that we really, really want him to take action and sign this bill. He did write an op-ed way back in December saying that states need to lead on climate. And yeah, and he also modeled this bill because we're in RGGI, we're in the regional greenhouse gas reduction obligation. We have to reduce our greenhouse gas reduction, or we could be sued. And one of the ways that his own administration modeled on how we could meet those obligations was through the Clean Energy Jobs Act. So hopefully that means that he's not going to do what his voting record says, which is, as a lot of you might know, he vetoed the Clean Energy Jobs Act of 2016, which was only to get us to 25%. So we have seen a change in tone, but the record still stands, so we really do want everybody to be calling his office, to be sending postcards. I also have a script for calling into his office and his number right there on the phone. You can take pictures on social media with a sign that says support the Clean Energy Jobs Act and tag him. Whatever you need to do to get his attention and say sign the Clean Energy Jobs Act now. We really do not have time to wait.
Can you repeat the rally time?
The rally times, yes. So the first one is in Annapolis, in City Dock. We'll be starting at 10:30. If you can, just knowing Annapolis, if you want to get there a little earlier, we'll be starting at City Dock. We'll be featuring our bill sponsor, Senator Feldman, as well as Lori Charkoudian, who's a really awesome MoCo legislator who's been a real advocate. We'll also hear from Sarah Elfreth, who's one of the youngest woman ever elected to Maryland State Senate. And we'll be hearing from some folks from the solar industry as well.
When is that date?
That would be May 8th, next Wednesday. Yes. This Wednesday. Yeah, sorry. And then we'll be having our Ellicott City press conference at around 4:30. That one will be at a storefront, so we won't have as much room, but you can come out. We'll be hearing there. Senator Lamb will be there. Courtney Watson will be there, and Eric Ebersol will be there. So that's also another opportunity to connect. And that will be at Main Street Oriental Rugs, which is Mohan Bhagda is the shop owner there. He's been really active with us. He's been really vocal about connecting what happened in Ellicott City to climate change. So those are some actions you can take as well. Yes. So I guess this is Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the deadline for Hogan to sign the bill?
Okay, so it's really hard to get this information, but the Constitution says that he has 30 days from the date of transference, so my understanding is that it's passed on sine die, which was April 8th, and then transferred to his office on the 13th of April, so he would have until May 13th to veto it, but to sign it, it's longer, I think. It's kind of confusing. We were calling his office all the time to be like, what's the official deadline? And we finally, after lots of calling, got that May 13th deadline. So that's why we're having this action beforehand, and the DeMarcos are embarking on the ride. They're also going to Frederick, and I think Fort Washington. They have their route on their website. But
he has 2 dates left for bill signings that he's already set up.
Okay.
15th and 23rd.
Yes. So.
Are we veto-proof?
We did have, now here's the other thing that's kind of even ridiculous that we even have to talk about this, but we did pass the Clean Energy Jobs Act with a supermajority in both houses. So what we might call a veto-proof majority, but he still has the ability to veto it. Even with that, and we would have to come back and override it unless there was a special session, which we just had for our speaker. Unless there was a special session, we would have to wait until next year when the legislature starts up again to have this bill go into effect. Any other questions about that? Yeah.
Is this the same bill where we tried to get the trash incineration taken out and we're not successful?
Yes, and that was really, really bitterly disappointing. And we fought really, really hard throughout the session. We even removed our original sponsor over this issue. Unfortunately, because of other circumstances, had to give it back to our original sponsor. It was a really big theme. If you were with CCAN for our big lobby night, you know that incineration was a huge theme. We also pursued 2 standalone bills to the same effect. But ultimately, because of really, really heavy lobbying from the incineration lobby, so that would be Wheelabrator and Covanta. Wheelabrator sent mailers to the entirety of Baltimore City to basically spread literal misinformation, outdated EPA data about the merits of waste to energy, trash incineration. Waste to energy is their language. Trash incineration, to basically misinform people. And they gave tours to legislators through their facility. They had their workers coming to every hearing. It was a really tough fight, and we saw a really big divide as well in the Legislative Black Caucus over the issue. So we didn't quite have the votes to get incineration out of the RPS this year. One big one we did have, on equity at least, in the previous version of the 2016 bill, the provisions about grants for veterans and people of color and women to be able to enter the green energy economy, that was stripped out of the 2016 version. So we were able to have that in this version, which was, so that's progress in a sense, but it was very disappointing. But what we've seen from the modeling is that even with trash incineration still left in, by 2030, 78% of the RPS would be from wind and solar, because we would outgrow that solar carve-out floor that a lot of people, I think, are aware of. That within that 50% carve-out, we also mandated 14.5% must come from solar, and we do that as a floor, and we expect it to outgrow that significantly. There is also that both counties, both the Dickerson plant in Montgomery County and the Baltimore City plant, the municipalities there have been working really, really hard independently to shut them down. And in fact, so Baltimore was successful, right? They passed that Clean Energy Act that was super exciting to get that incinerator shut down. Wheelabrator is now suing. Because they're saying that it's too strict, and they're challenging that law. So they are working really, really hard, and we have to come back again really, really firmly on this issue in the future. So thank you for your question. Yes?
So with the Wheelabrator that you mentioned, with that and trying to remove trash incineration, were there any proposed alternatives to that? What would happen once, let's say it was removed, what would we do with trash after that?
Right, and I think that was a question of a lot of legislators, and also what the transition is, and I think that's something we want to come back with a better answer for. What we were talking about, which has been explored by the City Council, is transitioning Baltimore City to zero waste. So diverting a lot more waste to recycling, and also repairing things, and that itself will also create tons and tons of jobs. So there are longer term zero waste plans in the works, but I do think that is a good question. It is a false dichotomy between landfill and incinerator. We can reduce our waste, we can divert our waste. It does not have to be it doesn't mean landfill or incinerator, but yes, I think that more and more detail on exactly what the timeline is one thing that we want to come back with stronger next year. So that's a good question, thank you. How many more questions? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, I don't want to dominate this space, but thank you so much. And if you want to talk to me more, I'll be here after.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to Storytime Speak Out. So if anyone wants to share their story or say anything important, you have the mic. No more than 2 minutes. Yeah, no more than 2 minutes. Yeah. You want to give everyone a chance to...
So, hi, I'm Carla Gates. I'm a member here at UUCC, and I wanted to support what Willie was saying, but it's clear that these young people have thought about environmental racism, and I just wanted to throw a word out there about being anti-racist. To really be anti-racist is to understand human equality deeply, and that allows us to see when If we have a policy that impacts Black people and people of color more or disproportionately to the rest of the population, an anti-racist assessment is to say, it's not the people, it must be our policy. So to make sure we have good policies that are anti-racist, in addition to being vegan, which I am and I promote, but you do you. Eat less meat, that's me as a nurse. Lower your cholesterol. And so thank you.
Would anyone else like to come to the mic? We have another 2 minutes. Oh, no, I mean another 2 minutes for another
Yeah.
in the back. Yeah. Okay.
Hi folks, my name's Eric. I'm a resident here in Columbia. I'm just letting people know about, I'm also a member of the Greater Baltimore DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. We're starting up our new eco-socialist working group now that the Green New Deal is starting in. And technically here in Howard County, we're part of the Baltimore DSA. We're part of includes Howard County. So a lot of their events and their organizing meetings are downtown, but if you can make it, let me double check here. We just started our next, so yeah, the first meeting of it is going to be on May 13th, 6:30. It's on the 12th floor of the University of Baltimore Law Library. That's on North Charles Street. That's the new one that was built on North Charles Street. On the top floor there, the first organizing meeting for the Baltimore's group of the eco-socialist contingent. I have some materials as well. The recent issue of DSA's publication is all about Green New Deal and about eco-socialism. So I have a few of these to pass out to folks if you'd like. Yes, I'm just going to give one to each of you guys. These are also the guiding principles there.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep.
Interesting.
Hi, is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Oh, we had some hands.
Yeah,
back
we did
there.
have some
Yeah.
hands. Go ahead.
Come on up. Yes. This is interesting. Wow.
Hi guys, my name is Jillian Rash and I'm the Geo Club leader from Glenelg High School. Unfortunately, the only one from my club that can make it today. I'm pretty sure the other people are sleeping, but that's okay. And so up to 2 years ago, my school, Glenelg High School, was 98% white. So the people in our school didn't really see the consequences of how environment, like deforestation and like systemic inequalities affected everyone else. Fortunately, we've gone up to 78%, so a little bit better, but I think the way that the Green New Deal incorporates like social issues with environmental issues is really helpful, and we should move forward with that. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
It's okay. Thank you so much. How much time do we have left? Okay. Would anyone else like to come up? Yes, in the back.
Oh, hi everybody. My name is Emily Kaplan. I am the political slash outreach director for a congressional candidate, Michaela Wilkes. She's, yay! I'm so happy all of you, or most of you have heard of her. So she's not running in this district, she's running in the 5th Congressional District against Steny Hoyer. She has signed a no fossil fuel pledge, or fossil fuel money pledge. She is absolutely in support of the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and a whole host of other issues. Her policy platform is pretty well detailed on her website, which is www.michaela2020.com. We just rolled out our second part of our platform. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be around after if you want to chat or help work on her campaign with canvassing or whatever. So thanks. Yeah. Talk to me after.
We have 2 more slots. Okay, does anyone? Okay. Yes.
I don't need to come up. I just want to make one
one more comment about the incineration in the RPS.
Okay.
And the issue is whether it's going to get subsidies or not. I mean, it's great to go to zero waste and all that. That's certainly a good thing, but the issue is whether we subsidize it.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to get at.
Okay.
Thank you for saying
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak up or share? Okay.
Just wanted to let people know, if you can't wait until 2020 to try to put somebody into office who is going to support AOC and support the Green New Deal, remember that our neighbor to the south, Virginia, is having their state elections this fall. And Sue Hugan, raise your hand there, has already, okay, so Swing Left has already organized monthly trips down to a district, Fauquier County. If you want to just say something about that.
So for the past 2 years, we worked out in Winchester, Virginia to flip Virginia 10. And since everything was so successful there, we moved our turf and we're now in Fauquier County. We're going for a trifecta approach. We're going for House District 18, Senate District 27, and eventual Congressional District 5 in 2020. But their election is in 2019. So we are going monthly down to the Warrenton area, and we do voter registration canvassing because in a presidential election time period, people are aware of voting and things like that, but we need more people registered, and especially in the rural areas, so we're focusing on voter registration and our Democratic candidates after the primary. Swing Left doesn't pick a primary candidate, we wait till after the primary to support a particular candidate. So if you go to swingleft.org and you put in your zip code, you will be pulling up Swing Left Howard County, Maryland's group, and we have monthly canvases down there. We'd be happy to have everybody come join us.
Indivisible, we actually seen some up to a couple of other neighboring districts. We're not quite as fast off the mark as Sue Hugan is. But just remember that we would not be talking about the Green Deal, quite probably, right now, if people hadn't busted their butts to get AOC and the others elected to Congress. So elections matter.
Okay. We have room for one more person to share. Yes.
So when you say you're going down there, you mean you're taking buses down there, or everyone's going to the house?
We carpool.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
To the Bible, to the Bible.
So my name is Jason. I hate being tall. I just wanted to say thank you for coming here. This is one of the first kinds of groups like this that I've been to. And Carla, I wanted to sort of, about what you had said about being anti-racist, I wanted to sort of pose, not a counter-argument, but sort of say the same thing in different words. Mother Teresa had a quote that said that she's not against war, she's for peace. And so I think what's important is to, rather than being anti-something, be for something. So for justice, for...
Hold on. White guy instructing black woman on racism, please stop. Please stop right there. Don't go any further. Please understand your privilege and your position in our social power structures, and don't.
Also, we can talk later, but this is a term coined by Ibram Kendi, who works at the Anti-Racist Policy Center in DC, American University. So it's a deliberate choice. I hear what you mean about that, but there is choice, but I was just going to
Sure, okay. I apologize about that. I didn't mean to come off the wrong way. But thank you again for everybody coming out.
I wanted to come up again because I came in my capacity as the NAACP president in Howard County the first time. But in my day job, where I can mix both advocacy and my vocation, I run a health justice organization in Baltimore City. And we actually grow on 2 acres of land, and we produce around 10,000 pounds of food for people who are in a reality of food apartheid. What I want to pitch, particularly considering what just happened, is that if we can grow this stuff together, we can win. And that's like small things that we can do right away. And if you've been watching anything about food justice over the last 10 years, you've seen not only is McDonald's talking about having vegan burgers, but Burger King and everybody else. So these are small steps to what she's been doing that can show you that small things can make a difference. So I encourage you to consider that. How many meat eaters do we have in the house? Oh, none? Well, if you eat meat, ask for locally grown meat. You know, go to someplace local and get it, and you have a mouthful, and you can change the way this thing is working. Thanks.
Okay, but there's submitted questions. Should I answer those? Yeah.
Oh, Iris.
Yes.
Just a quick comment. As a Unitarian Universalist, one of our principles is the interconnected web of all existence. And every item that we've touched on today impacts all of our lives. And growing 10,000 pounds of food a year is not a small impact. But all of this is tied together, whether it's food justice, racial justice, social justice, environmental justice. These are all intertwined. And whatever your issue, it'll probably tie back to the Green New Deal. So I would encourage you to bring your issues to the fore and make them part of this whole movement.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to come up to the mic.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a Howard County educator, Jamie Parrish. Some of these students up here are my students. And part of the conversation I was having with this young man back here earlier is that a lot of students don't remember or know about the New Deal, what the original New Deal was. And I teach it in class, and the core of it was that people could not afford to feed themselves, to clothe themselves, to house themselves. There weren't enough jobs. And when we throw green in front of New Deal, I hear we need to make jobs for people of color, for women, for minorities, for the underserved communities in this country. You know, Howard County is a bubble. It's beautiful, it's green. We know there's underserved parts of Howard County, but if you drive from Baltimore City down Frederick Road or Emerson Avenue out to the county, you are going to see communities that have been completely forgotten. And I know there's someone in office who likes to talk about the forgotten man, but there are hundreds of communities that have been forgotten in this country where there is no economic investment. And that's the core of what this Green New Deal is about, is providing economic investment for those communities because they deserve the food justice and the racial justice and the economic justice. And it all does tie back to that. And so I think when we're talking about the Green New Deal, we need to talk about it. It's about putting people back to work in a way that makes our country and our communities healthier.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So I just wanted to say in relation to that, a lot of you might not know this, but after the New Deal, FDR proposed the Second Bill of Rights, or the Economic Bill of Rights as it's known, which was everyone has a right to a job, everyone has a right to food, everyone has a right to recreation, everyone has a right to water, and everyone has a right to everything that they need to live. And that's some of the things I'm seeing from the Green New Deal, and that's some of the continuation of the original New Deal and the continuation of the Green New Deal. And I hope where this is all going.
Okay, so before this event, we had a little form submitted that could get people to submit their own questions and stuff. So one of the questions submitted was, does the Green New Deal center its policies and programs to the U.S. only, or does it intend to reach out to and help the poorest nations around the world as well? The poor everywhere are the hardest hit people by global warming and climate change. Those are my questions. In other words, what do you expect the Green New Deal's global impact will or could be for the poor? Yeah, this is for you guys to answer. What do you guys think? What? Yes.
I think we have a vestige colonial responsibility. We colonized how much? We took how much from everybody else?
Not as much as
We're way past.
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Parrish.
I think before we think about how it will impact the poor, we need to ask them what they want out of the
Mhm.
deal.
Yeah.
Because checking my privilege, middle-aged white man in America with 2 college degrees and a really great career, you know. So I can't be out there on the forefront saying what they need. They need to tell me what they need, and I need to use the resources that I have available to me to fight for that. So I think we won't know how to impact the poor until we ask them.
Go ahead.
So one of the suggestions from people who from the environmental movement is to reduce consumption, energy consumption, and that's also geared toward the people in third world nations, in third world countries, and to me that's kind of not fair, because energy is that's how we progress, that's how we have our standard of living, and I think to be mindful that it should not be framed that way for that. It should be providing abundance of energy for people who live in third world countries. And the other thing is to be cognizant that when we talk about renewables, we have the minerals that we use to make these facilities are not renewable. And a lot of these facilities, once we're done using them, we're sending them to third world countries for them to be disposed. Then where they don't have a responsible way of disposing them. So we need to be mindful of these two things. It will make us feel better here, but when are we going to repeat the same cycle? In 20, 30 years from now, are we going to look back and say, maybe we should have done it a little differently? So I'll just.
Sorry, thank you so much for your comment. We just need to move on because we just
Yeah.
need to get it to more people.
Okay, so this is really long, but basically says the economy is booming for investors and corporate executives, but when the employment is low, wage growth is flat. Many Americans are focusing on their personal financial issues and less on climate change's impact. How do you break through the chatter from the media and the right-wing politicians to get out the message that climate change is an economic issue and that transforming the ways in which we produce and consume energy, services, and goods will create jobs? Yes.
Can I real quick?
Yes, of course.
So I think the problem with a lot of this is, as a young person, I've noticed our country is at a point of extremes right now. We can't seem to agree on much, and we need to stop making it a partisan issue, a Republican, Democrat. It's not a race thing or a gender thing or a political belief thing. It's just, at this point, it's facts, and we need to accept them and do something about them. And so I feel we need to frame the argument in a different way. I noticed that a lot of people like to make it perhaps a Democrat thing or a liberal thing, and that's not what it is. It's a people thing for our entire nation and our country and our future. And I think we need to change how it's framed. That way we can vote and even get our politicians to side with us, because with our political climate right now, there are certain words that are like hot potato. You don't want to go near them. You don't want to, if you're a Republican, you don't want to say anything that could be like, oh, I'm starting to become liberal or whatever, And I think we have to keep it neutral and for everyone, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So if I can say something real quick, there's actually a really great video on YouTube. It's like this woman, she calls herself a Tea Party conservationist. And she actually believes in climate change, and she pushes for climate change amongst Republican people. That's her lifelong thing. And she gives a few tips, and she talks about how you should never say global warming or climate change, but talk about how it's about our freedom to have a climate that's for us. It's like the message and she gives really good points, and I think it's very similar to the fact that you just kind of leave the whole partisan idea out of it. It's just no, this is the climate. And like, imagine God and, like, right? So there is a way, and there's people out there.
Well, I wanted to say really quickly that something like 70% of Americans believe in climate change now. It's up 13% since the last time it was polled. And one thing about how AOC got elected was not by converting Republicans, but by registering the 2/3 of people who do not vote. Okay, so I'm sure all of you know somebody who doesn't vote who's very opinionated, but they don't vote because they believe that they're voting for the same regime, right? And they're it's kind of true. Yeah, there's big differences, but in terms of social justice implications, but ultimately there's a lot of big issues that a lot of people agree on, but they're not voting because they don't feel enfranchised. So I think our strategy is more about enfranchising people who have been out of the system for a long time and felt left behind.
Okay.
I guess the other word to that is self-determination. And so what she's saying, which could sound green, is that we got to find something that brings everybody together. Yes. If everybody remembers when, can't remember the governor of, Ed Rendell ran for governor in the state of Pennsylvania from Philadelphia, and he won. But he won because he was able to explain to people who live in rural areas that environmental justice is good because you got to hunt, right? Not only that, when the conversation got around talking about jobs and this kind of thing, you can't buy a gun unless you have a job. So we have to bring urban areas and rural areas together for this purpose. So we have to have a leadership that's focused on the unity on the front end. And that's what we have to do. And certainly drive it to young people that that's the first thing you do.
Does anyone have any other final questions, burning thoughts, or anything that they just want to say?
I have a historical correction on myself. So I misspoke. The term anti-racist comes from Angela Davis, who said that it's not enough to be non-racist. You have to be anti-racist. So I just wanted to correct myself.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But it is in that book.
It's also in that, yes. It is.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I heard claims for rights, and for those of us that studied under certain professors, it wasn't me, you weren't mine, but the Constitution, etc., those rights aren't listed out there, pretty much. And so when you get people that aren't on your side and you start claiming rights, they're looking at you like you're crazy, because they're not in there. And I'm a disabled vet, so I go back to the basics, and they go, nope, I'm there to support you, but where are they? So what I'm saying, raising the issue that I wouldn't run out there claiming rights. It's a good thing, but they're articulated. What I would do is translate what's articulated into the language you're doing and explain it from that perspective. Because there's no right, half the rights that people are claiming, I got the right for this, I got the right for that. Sorry, you don't. And a court of law, ACLU might come in and support you, but you don't have anything to stand on. So it's important that we help translate. That's what I'm saying. Because I've heard that thrown at me many, many times before. Thank you.
Anything else before we get into little thingy? Okay, so if everyone could take your sticky notes and place them on one of these boards, it'd be nice. And then we're going to take a picture. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? Okay. We can just flush those. Oh, sorry. You guys supposed to be Okay. Hey guys, please don't leave. We're about to take a picture. If you could, if you have to leave, an emergency or anything, please come sign your name.
Think about those rights.
No, I'm not right. Okay, how do we take a picture? Should we go outside and take a picture?
UN Declaration. I mean, you got to put it in everybody.
Yeah.
The people that are on our side might not leave, so they don't argue with it. That's the key.
Everybody outside.
Way up there. Go. That is.
It's not exact science. Tell everybody it's like very
I agree with you. I'm just saying,
one
hardly never hardly ever on. Funny hardly about.
I did 5 years. I'd be happy to.
That is so weird. That guy was a student.
We're just not doing that.
He was a student. That's
I'm so
great.
sorry.
Don't leave your hide a flash.
Good to see you. So, what is that you